Today, we're diving into a kinda literary ghost story. But it's not about a haunted house, it's about a haunted legacy. We're talking about The Serious Wind, a lost novel that's been attributed to the one and only Jane Bowles. And trust me, it's a wild ride into what happens when reality itself just starts to, well, fall apart.
So the story takes place in this fictional Moroccan town called Aïn Leuh. And this little quote from one of the characters, Miss Church, really sets the scene perfectly. This isn't just any town. It's a place at the very edge of the map, you know? A kind of waiting room where the normal rules of the world just don't seem to apply.
And here is the hook. This is what makes this whole thing so completely irresistible. The story goes that this manuscript was found in an old trunk in Tangier almost 50 years after Jane Bowles died. So the big question is, are we looking at a forgotten masterpiece, or is it something else? Let's get into it.
All right, first up, let's meet our main character. The entire story revolves around a woman named Mrs. Thayer. She's an American who's basically run away from her old life, trying to disappear into this remote Moroccan town.
You know, this one little detail tells you everything about her state of mind. After 3 years, she suddenly realizes the tiles in her courtyard are blue, not green. It's not really about the color, is it? It's this sudden, stomach-dropping realization that her whole perception of the world has been wrong for a very long time. This is the first crack in the foundation.
So why did she leave in the first place? Well, this quote about her ex-husband, Leonard, just says it all. Can you picture it? A man who just stands in doorways, never quite in a room, but never quite out of it either. He was living in this permanent state of indecision, and you get the feeling that living with that kind of paralysis became a prison for her.
And that question, right there, is really the heart of this whole story. What's the real cost of living a life that's stuck between choices, never fully committing to anything? Mrs. Thayer ran away from that life, only to find herself stuck in a totally new kind of doorway in Morocco. Okay, so Mrs. Thayer is living this quiet, isolated life. But that is all about to change. Things are about to get very, very strange.
You can just feel the dread building here, can't you? First, it's just a rumor, some French woman asking questions about whether she's happy. Then Mrs. Thayer checks the only hotel in town and the manager says, nope, no guests for months. But then a letter arrives from her sister all the way back in Connecticut describing a visit from this exact same woman. The threat isn't just in Morocco anymore, it's closing in from everywhere. And then, that very night, she appears, right there in her own courtyard.
And then, there she is. The woman introduces herself as Céleste. And those 2 words she says, at last, are just so chilling. This isn't some random encounter. This is an appointment. Mrs. Thayer has been found.
Celeste's arrival is what really kicks this story into another gear, because she introduces this central, supernatural idea and this impossible choice that Mrs. Thayer is going to have to make.
So it turns out this town, Aïn Leuh, it exists in 2 places at once. Céleste is a guide to what she calls the other place. It's a shadow version of the town, a kind of destination for souls who have become lost and disconnected from our world. You know, people exactly like Mrs. Thayer.
The choice she's facing is incredibly stark. She can stay right here, in this world, with all of its messy, complicated feelings, the pain, the memories, the joy, or she can cross over to a place of perfect, quiet, peaceful emptiness. A place where she'll exist, but she won't have to feel anything ever again.
But of course, there's a catch, and it's a terrifying one. Her housekeeper, Zodelia, gives her this warning. She says the real horror of the other place isn't the emptiness itself. It's that you'll still remember what it was like to feel. You'll have this echo of a life that you can never, ever get back to. And that's the punishment.
So this brings us to the climax of the story. Mrs. Thayer is literally fading away from our world. She's standing on the threshold, and she has to make a choice, right now. Céleste lays out the price of escape, and it is absolutely devastating. It's not just about forgetting the bad stuff. To cross over, she has to give up everything. She'll forget her sister, she'll forget her mother, she'll forget what it even feels like to be happy or sad. She will become, for all intents and purposes, a blank page.
And then, in this incredibly powerful moment, she finds her voice. After a whole life of feeling adrift and disconnected, she makes a real, solid choice. She chooses the mess. She chooses the pain and the uncertainty. She chooses to stay.
And the change is instant.
That serious wind, the one that was constantly whispering to her, calling her to the other place, it just stops. And the fountain in her courtyard, which has been dry and silent for years, suddenly starts to flow with water again. It's this beautiful, perfect symbol that she has come back to life.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? The story isn't quite over, because the manuscript includes these author's notes that make us question everything we just saw.
See, the notes point out that if you know Jane Bowles's other work, you know she doesn't really do neat, happy endings. Her characters usually stay lost, they stay adrift. So this triumphant choice by Mrs. Thayer, it feels almost un-Bowles-like. What are we supposed to make of that?
Well, it really leaves us with one big question, circling two possibilities. Was Bowles trying something new here? Was she exploring the idea that maybe, just maybe, you can fight your way back to a resolution? Or is this feeling of peace just another illusion, the quiet before the storm returns?
And then the epilogue just rips the rug out from under you. It flashes forward, years later, Mrs. Thayer is long gone. There's a new woman living in the house, another lost soul. And she starts to hear something, a wind blowing, a serious wind. The cycle is starting all over again.
Which leaves us with this final haunting question. Mrs. Thayer chose to stay, yes? But does that choice ever really end? Or is the struggle to stay present, to choose this messy world over the peaceful quiet of oblivion, is that a fight that every lost soul has to keep fighting forever?